a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. I'm finally getting around to doing it. I basically just asked what your first memories of ASMR was, how you found out about it, maybe how you found out about the community here on YouTube. I thought it would be really interesting to compare everybody's stories, and I thought this video could also be kind of educational to those who just kind of stumble upon these videos without having any idea what ASMR is. And if you did not leave your story on this post, that's totally fine. Feel free to leave your stories down in the comments on this video, and we can all read them. But I don't want to spend too much time talking about it because there are, I think, like 250 stories to get through. So, if I don't get through all of them, I'm really sorry. I have no idea how this is gonna go, but I mean, they're short, so I feel like I'll be able to get through more than I expected. So, I'm just gonna be reading them on my phone here. See, I have them all. Okay. And if I pronounce anybody's name wrong, forgive me. I'm sorry. I'm gonna try my best. So, Rebecca says, I first experienced ASMR when I was a little girl, about 5 years old. My mom always triggered my ASMR, but I didn't think she even knew what she was doing. She would read bedtime stories to me every night in a whispered or soft-spoken voice. She would even run her fingertips slowly and softly over my face and would whisper, "Relax, relax." My mom was like my own personal ASMR artist. I'm so happy I discovered this amazing community. I was gonna say, she literally does sound like an ASMR artist. That's cute. Lil Low says, I remember being in the 3rd grade. One of my friends sat next to me. She would always draw and color during class when we had free time. She had a bag of colored pencils, and watching her draw so precisely was mesmerizing to me. I got tingles all over my scalp and down my spine, and my favorite part was when she'd sort through the bag to choose a new color. Her hand movements were so so deliberate, and the pencils would make such soft but satisfying noises. I used to think the experience was so weird, but I even told her I could watch you draw all day. I was so glad when I discovered that I'm not the only one who ever experienced this feeling, and that it actually had a name. Laura says, back in the early 1900s, when I was 5 or 6, I used to love when the school nurse would check us for head lice. She used a thin wooden stick and a plastic comb to divide her hair and look through at the scalp. The feeling of that wooden stick across my scalp was the best. I used to tell my peers how much I loved when we were checked for lice, and my classmates thought I was crazy. I also used to love when our teacher or librarian would sit in front of us and read a book to the class. The slow turning of the pages was nice. I liked that too. Jail Time Jake says, I was going through opiate withdrawal and was just looking for some peace of mind. Been in love ever since with ASMR for 3 years and running. I'm off the opiates and working. Good for you. Meat Lover says, I remember back in 2011, my freshman year of high school, I had a friend who sat behind me, and she would always randomly trace her fingers on my back, even though I would tell her to stop. But that gave me so much tingles from it, obviously, at the time. I didn't know what that feeling was. Anyways, hope you and anyone who reads this has a good day. Why can't I read today? But thank you, that was really sweet. Carmen Mayer says, my first experience with ASMR happened way before I even knew what ASMR was. When I was little, I loved when people would whisper in my ear. I thought it tickled, but now I know those were tingles. I've always loved just listening to people talk and also watching people draw and write. Even when I was older, still before I discovered ASMR videos though, I would search up couponing videos on YouTube and listen to those as I went to bed because I liked the sounds of their voices. Soon after that, I finally found ASMR and was like, oh, that makes so much sense. I'm pretty sure we've all said that at some point. Joshua just remember her softly talking about how silly I was, and although I thought my leg was gonna fall off from the tiny graze, she assisted me that it wasn't, and sent me on my way with a plaster and a lollipop, which I later traded for bubblegum. What is this name? I'm so sorry. My first experience with ASMR was when a friend of mine always tapped on the wooden table in school with his fingernails. I really liked the sound, so I looked it up and got introduced to the world of ASMR. Paris Shelby says, well, I was reading a book called The Fault in Our Stars to the movie, and I searched for the audio, and it was by Accidentally Graceful, and I listened to it, and my belly started to feel tingly, and then my back, and then ASMR came up in my suggestions, and then I found GB ASMR and JoJo ASMR, then you, I'm assuming me, and I am very grateful for the help of your videos. They've given me sleep and relaxation. That's awesome, thank you. Charlie Goodwin says, I was listening to The Golden Compass on an audiobook in my cousin's car on the way to the circus. I was 5. Sorry Oliveira says, if I saw someone like Kim K or Kylie Jenner, since the way they talk is super relaxing to me. I've heard other people say that too. But on makeup it would put me to sleep, and I didn't know why. And on YouTube I saw a video by Trisha Paytas where she tapped on a lot of things and whispered, and I literally thought she was crazy. But then I got tingles, and so I searched ASMR and YouTube, and my life changed for the better. Trisha Paytas is an amazing ASMR artist. If she started an ASMR channel, I would stand and I would be her #1 fan. Just saying. Jada Star says, I have insomnia and nothing helps. I really was having a hard time, so I reached out to ASMR because I had heard so many great things about it, and it helped so much. Then I thought, oh, it helped more than I thought, and then 4.5 years later, here I am. Basura, it's a nice username, says, I used to feel tingles in my neck and head when this older lady would read out loud to me when I was like 4. That's my first distinct memory of realizing I was actually experiencing something. I wanted her to keep reading. I didn't find the community until mid-2016 though. Mr. Felix says, I was about 10 and my aunt was showing me how to draw, but I learned nothing because I was in a daze from her voice. Priscilla Fuentes says, my first ASMR experience was when my grandma would read the Bible to me in Spanish to go to sleep. I didn't know what it was back then, but now I know that it was my first experience with ASMR. First time I experienced ASMR through the YouTube community was a hairbrushing video, I believe, from ASMR Psych Truth. I believe it is their most watched video still. My grandmother used to read Pinocchio to me in Italian, and that was one of my first experiences too. Rosie Ramos says, my elementary school librarian, Miss Prackle, used to have the most soothing voice, and once a week we had library story time where she'd quietly read a story to us in the library. It was heaven, but also a little weird how I was always so mesmerized and everyone else could care less. Literally me. Jennifer Moore said, my dad watched golf on TV when I was a kid. I remember the commentators would talk really softly, the wind would blow on their microphones, and there would be ambient sounds of nature. Put me to sleep every time. That's really interesting. Space Cowboy says, my first experience with ASMR was right after work. I found an ASMR darling video for stress relief while looking up relaxing music, so I decided to give it a try. While waiting in my car for my shift to end. I've been hooked ever since, and now I watch ASMR every day. Pearl Blow says, I have an older sister and she introduced me to ASMR about 6 years ago. She would go for a nap and ask me to whisper in her ear a story for her to fall asleep. I remember whispering in her ear a brownie recipe, and someday she did it to me and I would get chills all the way up my spine. Ever since, I listened every day. Hannah K. Mitchell says, do you see me like going like this? Am I going blind? I think Maya might be a little congested because she is snoring like crazy. I hope you can't hear that. Okay, Hannah K. Mitchell says, I was about 6 years old in school and we were all sat on the carpet listening just remember experiencing these waves of relaxation and never wanting it to end. I also remember when I first stumbled upon the ASMR YouTube community back in 2014, because I would always watch the same general haircut video. Not ASMR, but I like the sound of the scissors clinking with the comb. And a video of ALB in Whisperland brushing someone's hair was in the recommendation soundbar, and I only clicked it because of her cool pink hair, and the rest is history. The first video I watched of yours in particular was a quotes one a few years back. I love those kinds of videos. Wishing you the best. Thank you, Hannah. Good morning, Sunshine says, I had my first tingles when I had a sleepover at a friend's place, and she would whisper because we had to be quiet. I asked her so many questions because I didn't want her to stop whispering, and at some point I just fell asleep. I didn't know it was ASMR then. Jabroni Flores says, I don't know about anyone else, but mine was when I was a kid sitting by the TV watching Kara, I believe, and just sitting there watching Bob Ross paint and listening to the sound of his voice and the sounds of the brushes on the canvas. Zoe Alex says, I would re-watch the same makeup tutorial, unintentional ASMR, over and over again for years, and I would be so embarrassed and hide how much it relaxed me until one day I shared my big dirty secret with a friend, and he was like, LOL, look up ASMR. Best day of my life. I felt as if I had won the lottery. My mind was blown. That's awesome. Ya boy says, my first ASMR experience was when my mom used to rub my back to help me fall asleep when I was a child. Yago Ruiz says, first experience was in the 5th grade during tests. My teacher would bring those little chocolate balls that came in those long plastic wraps. What she would do is when the class was dead quiet taking a test, she would open them up and it would make crinkling noises, and she would whisper, eating some of her own, asking us if we wanted some of her own, asking if we wanted some, and she would hand them out to the whole class. Never felt so relaxed while taking a test. Nightfall Normad ASMR says, my first ASMR experience that I can remember was when I was probably 10 and sitting in church primary. I always got tingles when the kids would get up and say a prayer or talk in the microphone with a soft voice. I had no idea what it was called, but I loved it. I also like to watch squishy collection videos because of their soft voices. People playing with my hair was something I loved and still do. Eventually, I discovered the ASMR community through a spa roleplay. I can't find the video anymore, but I clearly remember the video starting with the girl saying, "Welcome to Serenity Spa." It's been 7 years, and I finally started my own channel where hopefully I can start uploading regularly soon. ASMR has helped me so much more than I can ever say, so thank you for giving that to us. So everyone now has to check out Nightfall Nomad ASMR. Tia Joanne says, I remember when I was a child, my mom would pretend to paint my face, explaining in detail what color she was using and what I was going to be painted as. That always made me feel relaxed and helped me fall asleep. Matrix 240024 says, Bob Ross. Maya, can you relax? Jeez, sorry. I wish I could show her to you because she just got a haircut, but she just got comfortable, so I won't. Rose Vasquez says, the first time I watched an ASMR video was actually just last year, and it was an ASMR video by Jeffree Star where he would read hate comments. The video kept popping up, but I never actually wanted to watch it until one day I decided I'll watch it since it kept popping up so much. And I have never seen an ASMR video in my life before until I watched that video and found it really relaxing. So that is how I found out about ASMR. Mo says, I remember it was around 13 years ago, maybe a little older, and I used to watch Rice Gum. He had made a video reacting to ASMR with Gentle Whispers videos, and instead of laughing at his joke like I would have normally done, I got upset with his jokes as I felt he was in the wrong, and I ended up never watching him since and started watching ASMR after. That's cool, that's interesting. Yeah, some people like give exposure to ASMR, but not always in the best way, so I respect respect your decision. Kelly Dutcher says, my grandmother used to hold me when I was little and rub my forearm. It was so relaxing and tingly, it would put me right to sleep. I now do the same thing to my daughter as well, as I rub her face and she falls into a sleepy trance. Also, at night, my dad would read me bedtime stories in a whisper, and I would try so hard to stay awake and listen to him as long as possible. He had the best whisper, and that was the first type of video I searched and realized ASMR is a thing, and now I listen to it every night. MK ASMR says, I was in middle school the first time I remember getting tingles. I was zoning out in a quiet classroom when a girl across the room started opening a cough drop. The crinkling sound made my head buzz with tingles, and then the mouth sounds she made as she sucked on the cough drop just made them stronger. It was an incredible feeling, and I had no idea what it was or if it was normal. I continued to get tingles from certain sounds at school or in the workplace, but didn't discover the ASMR community until I was in my 20s. Just Meh says, my ex-best friend introduced me to ASMR when she came over my house. That's when she showed me an ASMR darling video. That was my first encounter, and I was in 6th grade, so I was 11 or 12. Joanna Bicho says, I remember when I was 8 or 9, I felt tingles in the back of my head while hearing the footsteps in the Barbie movies, especially in Rapunzel. I love those movies. I'd watch that movie over and over again just for those parts. Iris Para says, my boyfriend introduced me to ASMR, and I was a little iffy about it, but then I saw Honeycomb ASMR video, and I was just super into that one. Then he showed me your video on the Amber Alert, and now we sleep to that one almost every night. I would love to see more unsolved crimes, or even solved ones. True crime coming next video, by the way. Vanessa Zayas-Fazan says, the first experience was when I was 6 or 7. I didn't know why, but I loved the sound of the plastic that covered library books. Me too. Obviously, I didn't know it was ASMR. Anna M says, I remember when I was younger and I would love to play with all of my cousins, doctor or makeovers, and when they would touch my hair or cure me as doctors, I would feel tingling all the time. Kenzie M says, I heard about it at school. I didn't know what it was, and my friend showed it to me as a joke. She said it was terrible, but as the video began playing, I loved it. As soon as I got home, I began exploring more of the community, and here we are today. Paige says, my first ASMR experience I remember having was as a little girl, 6 or 7 maybe. I was watching the movie Edward Scissorhands. The part where Peg goes up to the castle and meets Edward and talks with him in a soft whisper and cleans his face always gives me tingles. I had no idea what the feeling was at the time, but I knew it made me feel super relaxed. I would rewind that part over and over. Taylor M says, my first ASMR experience was when my mom would scratch my back when I was little. She had long acrylic nails. She would tap and scratch my back. I know it sounds weird, but it was really relaxing and helped me sleep. Laura Botts says, my first experience with ASMR was when I was around 5 and I was at a sleepover sharing secrets. Close whispering is my favorite. Miss Sierra says, my first experience was when my mom would brush my hair and make a ponytail for me for school. The tingles I felt all around my head and the back of my neck was unreal. I had never felt so relaxed in my life. I always felt like I was the only weirdo to experience something like that, but I'm so thankful knowing that it's a completely normal sensation to feel and has an actual name. Jessica Carranza says, my first experience was when someone would whisper to me on the ear really close and I would always get tingles. It felt really relaxing, and then I kept telling them to whisper in my ear more because it just felt good. I did that too. This username is just my name. It literally says my name. To be honest, I've always loved when my mom used to eat and I could hear her chew. It made me want to stop eating and just listen, albeit kind of disgusting, but my body likes what it likes. Also, when the rain pitter-patters shutters on the window, and I can hear the gradual crescendo of the drops falling harder and harder. That always gave me tingles and relaxed me like, hey presto. One other ASMR technique that absolutely relaxed me to the max and made me fall asleep and feel tingles galore. It was when people used to whisper into my ear. I could feel the tingles from my ear down to my legs, and it was like Tingle Palace. Yeah, it sounds weird, but those are my first experiences with ASMR before I found out it was a thing. Am Bam says, probably not my first experience, but my first memory of it was taking one of those state tests in 5th grade, and the teacher assistant walked by me and rubbed my back. Holy poop! I got tingles from my lower spine into my ears and at the top of my head, and my eyes rolled back. Wish I could feel it again. Jenna Prosperi says, when I was in elementary school, I remember feeling a tingling sensation down my back whenever kids would sit behind me and whisper, or when someone would trace my back. I also loved when other girls would play with my hair during class read aloud time. Then in 6th grade, I had my first music-related ASMR experience when I heard Kelly Clarkson's Already Gone. I found ASMR on YouTube from a good Mythical Morning video in 8th grade called What is ASMR? And then real ASMR videos started popping up in my feed. That's interesting. Noah Glaze says, my friend got me into it and told me to watch Maddie Tingles and JoJo, and I branched on from there, and now I'm on your channel. I love that. Nini12 says, my first experience with ASMR was last year. I was a 14-year-old bored girl in the summer vacation when I watched YouTube videos and suddenly came into Gracie K's channel. Since then, I can't stop watching ASMR. Love this so much as your channel. Thank you. Rage R ASMR says, my first was playing doctor with my friends as a little girl, and then I found Maria, gentle whispering, when my sister had her stroke and became paralyzed. Sorry to hear that. ASMR took me out of a deep depression, so much so I started my own channel in hopes to help others the way I was helped. That's awesome. Couple at Play says, when I was pregnant with my son in 2012, it was really hard for me to sleep. I was awake all night until 6 a.m. and then I'd finally fall asleep and sleep until noon. I was on YouTube watching nail polish collection videos, and this girl had the most soothing voice. I'd always fall asleep. One day I saw a video in the suggested section, and it was Maria's haircut video. The tingles and relaxation was insane, and I fell asleep almost right away every night. Ever since then, I've been hooked. Avery Nunley says, my grandma is a massage therapist, so when she would come over, she would massage me and I got tingles. I don't know if that counts because it's not because of a sound. It definitely counts. Definitely counts. 12 I Play says, hi, I was legally blind due to cataracts when I was younger, and as a result, I had to have a lot of occupational therapy and one-on-one time with a therapist throughout most of my schooling years. I remember in elementary school, I had a therapist who was from Hungary, and when she spoke, her accent mixed with the mouth sounds she would make had me mesmerized, and I would almost always nod off when she was reading to me. For years after that, I would search on the internet things like, I like the sounds people make when they talk, or what are the noises some people make when they talk. I would scout YouTube until I found someone that had mouth sounds when they spoke, and then I would watch their videos until they didn't give me ASMR anymore. Finally, one day, just out of pure luck, I saw a video by Springbok ASMR and decided to click on it out of curiosity, and I cried when I realized that this was exactly what I had been looking for. It was so nice to know that I wasn't alone or a freak like I had thought up until that point in time. Her name is Malia. That's a really pretty name. Okay. Lindsay Schaub says, I was in grade school, and the girl that sat behind me was reading a book to herself. I got tingles all over my head and neck and thought I was going to fall asleep. The teacher then scolded me for staring off into space and not working on my schoolwork. Southern X Pacific says, my elementary school teacher used very gentle and graceful hand motions, especially while opening crinkly covered library books and showing the picture slowly around the class. The The combination of the plastic crinkles and hand movements was so tingly, but when my friend would braid my hair or draw my back in addition, it was out of this world. Joelle Diaz says, I was in the 3rd grade. We were taking a test and it was really quiet in the classroom. It was a multiple choice test where you had to fill in the bubbles. We were told not to write outside of the bubble. When I finished the test, the teacher went over it and found a couple of mistakes. So she pulled out the eraser and began to use it on the paper, and as she did, the bracelets on her wrist began slightly hitting each other and making a nice clacking sound. That sound, combined with the sound of the eraser, gave me a huge explosion of tingles in my head. It was pure bliss, and I didn't want her to stop. We were taking tests all day that day. I believe it was finals, and I would purposely make mistakes on the test so that she would continue to make that sound. See, to anyone else that would sound so weird, but here it's totally normal. Avery says, my first ASMR experience happened when I was in the 1st grade. My friend Tessa would already sit behind me on the carpet and play with my hair. It would give me a relaxing feeling in my head and back. ASMR Alicia says, I never knew what ASMR was until about 2 years ago. I used to watch the 24-hour challenges where they would stay in places like grocery stores or fast food places, and I would watch them over and over again because when I got to the whispering, I felt all tingly in my head and shoulders. And then soon after that, I saw a YouTube channel, I'm assuming called Mess Yourself React to ASMR Darling, and ever since I've been hooked. Claire West says, couldn't agree more with Jabroni Flores about the utter gorgeousness of Bob Ross, particularly the tapping and scraping of the of the knife, and when he says little roll of paint, and really emphasized the T of paint. Before I discovered the joy of Bob, though, I had a school teacher when I was about 8 who had the softest, most languid voice, and I used to get tingles all over my scalp. It was utter joy. I never told anyone, as I thought maybe that's a bit strange, but thank heavens when I discovered ASMR and I realized I wasn't alone, but instead really lucky to get those tingles. Thank you, Sam, for giving me those tingles too. You are just fabulous. Best wishes from the UK. Thank you, Claire. Jax33 says, my first experience with ASMR was probably when I was about 5 or 6. My sister and I would draw on each other's backs and try to guess what the other had drawn. I remember purposely guessing wrong so she would redo it. Also really liked my hair being brushed and French braided by my mom. Now I ask my boyfriend to brush my hair for tingles. Big Fluff says, my first ASMR experience was watching Crocodile Hunter and the Jeff Corwin Experience. Well, on their shows, they would often slow everything down all of a sudden, usually with snakes, and start whispering about the situation, what's going on, what has to be done, and all the information about the animal they were focused on. Yannick Karina says, I remember in middle school one time I was in the cafeteria and a girl asked me something, but she sort of whispered and I had a tingly sensation in my scalp. From then on, I noticed how every time someone spoke softly, whispered, or said certain words, I would get that same tingly sensation. Of course, back then I didn't know it was ASMR until a few years ago. Rachel Shmimansky. I think I was somewhat right. My first ASMR experience was whenever my mom or my aunt would play with my hair and then braid it. It always gave me so many tingles. Top Alley says, I think my first experience with ASMR was a day when it was raining. My mom opened the door because it wasn't that cold outside and it was fresh. I got my blanket and just sat by the door watching the rain fall. I fell asleep after, but ever since then I've loved the rain because it's really relaxing. Sophia EM says, whispering in the classroom and sounds of people reading their newspaper in the train. Kennedy Garlock says, when I was young, I'd make my mom scratch my back and play with my hair while we were watching movies. Of course, I had no idea what it was, but it happened again with a boyfriend about a year ago, and I was intrigued, so I looked up ASMR, and it had the exact same effect. Lexi M says, my first ASMR experience was those people on Instagram who cut kinetic sand, and then later on, while scrolling through YouTube, I saw a video saying I reacted to ASMR. So I watched it, and I got annoyed at the person's reaction, so I looked for the video and watched a whole bunch, which was good because it really helped me sleep. first ASMR experience happened when I was in kindergarten. It's super random, but whenever someone tied my shoes for me, it gave me some strong tingles. Anisha Salmon says, I remember my first ASMR video. I was on vacation and I couldn't sleep, so I was scrolling through YouTube and stumbled upon a makeup roleplay by 𝓢𝓸𝓬𝓲𝓪. I love her. I had never seen anything like it, so I clicked on it and was so relaxed and entertained simultaneously. It was so great. It made me fall asleep, and now I've been watching ASMR every day for 4 years. xoxo says, Dan Bull's epic rap battle of Wispy, but I reckon I always liked whispering and stuff. Jasmine Walston says, I don't really remember when, but I was just normally watching YouTube and came across a video. It was ASMR Darling's video, and I liked it and searched directly for what it was on Google. See, that's what I love. You don't know what it is, so you Google it and you look it up instead of being disrespectful, you know? Anyway, Mimi Loves Tweety says, my first ASMR experience I can think of, which I think a lot of people find relaxing, is when I would come home from school and go greet my mom in her bedroom. I would lay down with her, go watch television before anything else, and she would stroke my hair till I fell asleep. She would do this until I reached high school, and I loved it. My first ASMR experience on YouTube was actually a small YouTuber called ASMR with Ali. She had 2 channels at the time, so I decided to check out her second one. It was then I discovered that slow tapping and hair brushing sounded too relaxing, so I fell asleep like 5 minutes into the video. Maria Rodriguez Carrillo says, when I was very little, like 4 or 5, the way my grandma would fold plastic bags would give me that ASMR feeling. Also, when I was in a waiting room at a doctor's office and people would slowly flip through magazines. Joe Bean says, I had trouble sleeping, especially during exam season. I was searching up relaxing music on YouTube to help calm me so I can sleep, and found ASMR. It really helped calm my anxiety, and I've been in love with ASMR ever since. Kate Shanahan says, I suffer from really horrible anxiety when I was younger, and I used to have panic attacks almost every day. One day, I was having a really bad one, and my parent looked up calming videos on YouTube, and they actually found an ASMR video. We didn't know what it was, but I was able to calm down a lot quicker. I still have that video saved for any time I get anxious. I've now been part of the ASMR community for 6 years. You have awesome parents. Matt Atkins says, I used to have a math tutor that always spoke very softly, and I used to remember getting goosebumps over it. Another memory of the tingles I've had is my dad tapping on a box that got delivered before he opened it. I struggle to sleep nowadays, so literally wrote into YouTube whispering videos. Funnily enough, I believed one of your fact videos was the first ASMR videos I had ever seen after that. I had a new understanding of it all and grew into watching all sorts of different videos. That's awesome. Jada Owens says, my mom used to brush my hair every night before bed when I was 8. I remember feeling a shiver go up and down my spine and feeling all tingly. I thought it was odd, but it would happen every time. At that same age, I used to get tingly hearing the teacher whisper instructions to a student during a test. The first ASMR artist I found was ASMR Psych Truth, and it was a hair brushing / scalp massage video. Then it all made sense. Erin Ditto says, when I was really little, maybe 3 or 4, my mom used to come lay with me whenever I went to bed and sing me songs. And one night, when she did it, she traced her fingers up and down my arm. And that did it. I got tingles, and from then on, I would always ask her every night to give me goosebumps. Nate says, when I was in elementary school, there was a kid in my class who had a really relaxing, quiet voice. One day in class, we were all taking turns reading. It was a really cloudy, rainy day, and the sound of the rain combined with his soft-spoken voice was my first ASMR memory. Victoria Spinoza says, well, I think my first experience was seeing my parents talk and how they would read me to sleep and make me close my eyes, and also painting that Def gave me tingles. Malika first ASMR experience ever, but definitely one of the first. It was when I was around 5 or 6 years old, and me and my mom were under an umbrella while it was raining. The sound of the rain hitting the umbrella sent shivers down my spine, and I remember being freaked out because of it. Mark Rafa says, I figured out I had it one day when I was watching normal YouTube subscriptions, and a recommended video came up of this girl tapping in a dark room. I clicked it and immediately got intense tingles, and being someone who suffers from anxiety, I knew from then on it was something that could really help me stay calm and relax. I don't get that many tingles anymore, but I still watch when I want to relax or study. Esmeralda Chavez says, the first time I ever experienced the tingles, I was in 4th grade. She's now a senior in high school. We would go to the library once a week at my school, and the librarian would read us a story. Everyone sat on the floor in rows, and there was this one girl who sat behind me and would play with my hair because it was really long. Her playing with my hair gave me a lot of tingles, and I always looked forward to going to the library. I didn't find out about ASMR videos and that this feeling was an actual thing until I was in 6th grade, and I could sleep one night, so I couldn't sleep one night, so I decided to look up on my phone relaxing videos, and found the queen of ASMR, Gentle Whispering. After watching that first video, I was hooked, and have been watching for about 6 years. ASMR helps me a lot with my anxiety that I suffer with badly on a day-to-day basis. Josh Hernandez, 23, says, I can recall the exact moment I first experienced ASMR. I was in the 5th grade, and I was sitting in class. It was BCIS, a computer class that basically taught us how to type. The teacher would have us sit quietly and type the worksheets she left us, and if we ever struggled or had a question, she would walk up to our desks and stand behind and explain in the softest whisper what we were doing wrong, or gave tips to improve. I remember just wanting to fall asleep right there and then because it was so soothing and I just felt so relaxed. I'll never forget it. Emily K says, when I was young, I would play this game with my cousins where we would write with our fingers on each other's arms, and we would have to guess what was written. I always got tingles, but obviously didn't know it was ASMR. I also would get visual ASMR in class, watching people take notes or drawing/coloring. Always made me sleepy and zone out. Riley Weston says, I had had insomnia for years. Then I searched what could help, and someone suggested ASMR. It helped a treat. Now I can sleep freely, and your videos help me a lot. Keep up the good work. Thank you. The Procedural Traveler says, well, I have to admit I had no idea what ASMR was until last year. However, I will always remember when I was at school and the teacher was explaining things to the class, I always felt sleepy. Like I said, it was only last year when I found out what ASMR was. Did I link my experiences to the wonderful ASMR? Okay, I'm only gonna do a few more because my camera's actually dying. But Trent Arnold says, actually, I was about 17 or 18. I fell asleep watching Last of the Mohicans, and somewhere in that twilight, I remember not wanting to go to sleep because of the tingles. Peppy J says, I know I've been experiencing it from early childhood, so I can't remember my first time, but I remember when I found out that ASMR is a thing and that I could get tingles from YouTube. I wasn't feeling well and asked my daughter to sit on my bed and look at a book so that I could listen to the page turn. Her sister came in and asked her to go play, so she sarcastically typed page turning into YouTube, and lo and behold, it existed in a video. I couldn't believe it, and neither could she. Both my daughters got tingles too, but even when we don't, we still relax by ASMR. That is awesome. Simone Van Heemskerk. I remember that I always loved tapping with my fingers/nails on tables and objects when I was a kid because of the sounds it made. I also loved to get my hair done by somebody else since I was very young. The feeling gave me chills. I did not, but do now understand. Okay, ASMR Zelda says, she has a channel, by the way, you guys can check her out. About 7 years ago, I read an article in a Belgian online newspaper about Gentle Whispering. It explained about this ASMR YouTube community and had a link to one of her videos. I clicked on it and ASMR videos. I also went through a bad spell with anxiety at that time, so I found it at just the right time, as it helped me a lot. Speed Force 007 says, when I was in kindergarten I had anxiety, so every day my teacher would take me to a secluded room, turn off the lights, and play ASMR. Really? Wow. That's cool. Alicia S.M. Elston says, I first experienced ASMR when I was a kid, and my mother would brush my hair with her hand, and it would make me fall to sleep in seconds. The first video I ever watched, though, was by the classic Heather Feather, and it was her doing some bead art. But my favorite ASMR videos have been ASMR Lego building. 𝓢𝓸𝓬𝓲𝓪 says, I remember I was watching a movie, and the mom in the movie was talking to her son, and her voice was so smooth and calming, I felt tingles all up my back and to my head. That's my first memory of feeling ASMR. The next time was when I was in first grade or kindergarten. My friends and I would tickle each other's backs and arms, and we would laugh, and I felt tingles too. We did get in trouble, and were told that we couldn't do that. I don't remember any after that. I didn't start looking up soft-speaking reading until I was 20, and that's when I found out what ASMR even was, and I've been hooked ever since. I love it just to relax and sometimes fall asleep. I love your videos, especially your true crime. New subscriber, by the way. Thank you. Okay, this is gonna probably have to be the last one. It's from Adam Schultz. It says, I remember experiencing it back in elementary school when teachers would speak softly or help you with your work over your shoulder and speak so softly. It was so relaxing. First time I saw ASMR on YouTube, it was a college humor skit around 2015. The video was about this hairdresser stabbing some robber with a pair of scissors, and the entire video was in ASMR. Interesting. It was both humorous and relaxing. So, I honestly didn't expect to get as many as I did, so I'm sorry that I couldn't read them all in this video, or else we would probably be here for a long time, but I think I got through a good portion of them. So thank you to everyone, whether I read it or not. Thank you for sending me your stories, allowing me to read them, as well as everybody else. And like I said at the beginning of this video, if I didn't read yours, or if you just didn't get a chance to